Hi, I'm Heather,
And I'm Haley.
and we're the Dunnit Sisters. This episode is about the disappearance of Skylar Ware. We spoke with his mom, Sandra, and she told us a little bit about Skylar, and she told us about his disappearance.
Try to get through this without crying too much. So he is my only child. He went missing when he was 25. So he's had 2 birthdays since then. So born 28 years ago, September is his birthday. He was a great kid. You know, he was an easy baby. He did everything super early. He was so easy until about 10. And then that's when he was first requested to go see a psychologist, and he was diagnosed with ADHD. But I mean, he was great. He was involved in sports. He excelled in everything. He was so smart. He played baseball, basketball, football, did taekwondo. I mean, he did everything, and he was awesome at everything. Probably until his freshman year in high school, he got into some trouble. But up until that point, life was pretty easy. We managed the ADHD with medication, so he was good with that. But then once he got in trouble, it all went downhill from there. He had a rough go at life. He was later diagnosed with bipolar. And then, I don't know, probably I think around 16, started using drugs. He met someone that introduced him to drugs, and unfortunately, that took him down a bad path. But I mean, he's a great person. When he's sober and when he's on his medication, he's amazing. He's sorry.
Do you think that he was doing drugs to self-medicate? I mean, if he didn't, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's funny. He would always make us laugh. He was just goofy. He would dance and sing and he just wanted to make everyone happy, and he has such a kind heart. He would do anything for anybody, which unfortunately a lot of times got him into trouble because he was easily manipulated and just always trying to help people. But he just so desperately wanted to be loved and liked and accepted. And unfortunately, sometimes that took him places with people that did not have his best interest at heart. Also, he's very talented musician. I don't know if you guys have heard his music. He's good. When he was, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 or something, I put him in piano lessons, and then he played the violin in orchestra in middle school. But then after that, he taught himself to play the guitar. And I mean, he can pretty much any instrument. He can hear the music and figure out how to play it. No, he never had lessons, so he taught himself, and he loved writing songs. You know, and then he started with the singing, and music was always his dream. Then fast forward, when he was 20, he had a son. So I have a grandson who is 7. Yeah, which I'm so thankful for that. And he is his mini me for sure. Oh my gosh, he looks and acts just like him. And I mean, when he was on the right path, he was a great dad. You know, he loves his son more than anything. And he loved his daddy too. You know, he loved grandma, but he'd come into my house and be like, "Where's my daddy?" But I mean, Skylar and I were always super, super close. I was a single mom the whole time. So, I mean, our bond is pretty incredible, which makes this very hard. The last time that I spoke to my son was Mother's Day of
Mother's Day.
2020, and I was actually in Florida house hunting that weekend. So I talked to him on the phone.
Oh, mhm.
Yeah, and he wished me happy Mother's Day and all of that, and then a message, talking about how much he loved me and I was his best friend, and he said, and now you're leaving me. 2 days later was my birthday, and I didn't hear from him, which was, not like him, but he was also a little sad that I was moving.
So you did not hear from him on your birthday?
No, May 10th was the last time that,
Yeah.
and I found my house. And so then I went back to Missouri, and I came back a month later, June 8th, and that's when I closed on the house and officially moved. So technically he was missing before I left, but I didn't know he was missing. I messaged him, of course, didn't get a
Right.
response. And he's an adult, so I tried to give him space, but every once in a while I would message and be like, hey, because I would never go long without hearing from him.
Right.
Like I said, we were super close, and regardless if he was under the influence or in trouble or whatever, he would still always contact me. So after a few weeks had passed, I wasn't necessarily worried, but I was more concerned that he was upset with me because I was leaving.
So if you texted him, he normally would respond, maybe within a day
Yes.
or two or right away.
Yeah.
Or,
So how did you then know that he was actually missing?
So fast forward, I'm in Florida in June, and I'm moving to a different state alone and all of this. So my life was just kind of a whirlwind, and I'm setting up a business and everything. So
Right.
I'm continuing to message him June and July. Well, it was in I think the beginning of August. I don't remember the exact date. And actually, the mother of his son contacted me, and she said, hey, have you heard anything from Skylar? I'm starting to get worried. I haven't heard anything from him. And I said, well, no, but he's a grown man. If he doesn't want to talk to his mom, he doesn't have to talk to his mom. And then she messaged me back later. I guess she did, I'm assuming, some investigation work on her own, but she messaged me back later and said, hey, I was able to contact some people, and the word on the street is that he was shot and killed in a drug deal robbery gone bad in Blue Springs by someone named Chris.
By someone named Chris. And this is the person, again, was the mother of your grandson, who's the one who's like, because then obviously he hadn't seen his son in all this time, and she was like, and that's not normal either, right? I mean, would he go months without seeing his son?
No, they had been in close contact,
Right.
before, but COVID hit also, so we also have that
Right.
barrier. So
Right,
people
right.
really couldn't leave their houses, but still, she was starting to get worried. So
Right.
she told me, I got out of her the name of the person that told her that information. So I contacted that person via Facebook, and the person was hesitant, but finally said, you know what? Yes, this is what I heard. And so that was late at night. So the next morning, oh God, I started calling all the hospitals. I started calling the morgue. I called, I have a friend who's a Kansas City homicide detective. So I called him. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And so he advised me on what to do. So I contacted the Kansas City Police Department missing persons, and I gave them the information. And my friend specifically told me, make sure you tell them that he has bipolar, because there's different protocol for people with mental illness. So I did. And then they did a wellness check on the last place that he was living in Kansas City.
Right.
And they said that they had not seen him since May. And then I had no idea, but that's all that the Kansas City Police Department did.
They stopped at that interview at that house.
They never contacted the media, which is protocol for someone with mental illness. But mind you, my world's been turned upside down. I mean, I have guilt because it's like, I should have done this. I should have done this. But so it was, I don't even know, like 6 months, 8 months. I don't know how long, but my sister's been wonderful. I know that's how you found us.
Yes. Yes.
She made up flyers. She,
Right.
contacted all these different missing persons. She did what I
Right.
couldn't do. So I'm very thankful for that. We would share things on Facebook, and one of my Facebook friends was friends with someone who turned out to be a reporter or a journalist for the Kansas City Star.
Okay.
And so, my friend shared the story with him, and he reached out to me, and I shared with him the story, and he asked if he could have my permission to do some investigating on it. And I said, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I found out Kansas City Police Department did nothing. And he actually wrote an article. There's an article. Did you read it?
Yeah.
So because of that article, I was contacted directly by Sheriff Daryl Forte.
Okay.
And he told me, he said, I read about your son, and that is unacceptable. The sheriff's department is going to take the case over.
Oh.
And I'm assigning 2 deputies to it. So that day, Skylar's case was assigned to Jackson County
Sheriff's Office.
November.
They've actually been working the case this whole
So
time.
they're the ones who work his case now at the Jackson
Yes.
County Sheriff's Office?
So because it had been, I think, close to a year that they had done nothing. So after a year is when Jackson County took it over, and they've been wonderful. Like I said, the detectives, they can't tell me a whole lot. They keep me updated, but they can't tell me a whole lot because it's an open investigation.
Right.
There's been leads, and there's, been things that they're working on. So I will tell you, according to the detectives, nobody has talked to him since May 12th. 12th was the last time he's been seen or heard by anyone.
I have a question, and that was when, according to an article I read, in August of 2020, when the police did the wellness check where Skylar was living, and the roommates had said they hadn't seen him in a few months.
Yeah.
There was a quote that also said, and they said, quote, and he no longer lived there.
Well, he didn't live there because I think the girl it was not a good place. Let's just say that. But
Okay.
I think whoever officially lived there was receiving government funding.
Uh-huh.
And Skylar knew the boyfriend. And what happened was the boyfriend and Skylar got kicked out. So I knew that he was kicked out because while I was down here in Florida that weekend, he was asking me money for a hotel.
Okay.
And he told me that they had been kicked out. But it wasn't months before. It
wasn't months before.
No, it was days before.
Days before. And then out of curiosity, do you ever know what happened to his personal things then? I mean, were they still in the hotel?
That's a good question.
Okay.
He had been living homeless off and on for quite some time.
Okay.
But by choice. He had just one rule at my house, and that was that he had to be sober, and he chose to use drugs. So he didn't really have a whole lot of things because, he was homeless. But from what I found out from the detectives, the last place that he stayed was one of those shady motels, like close to the stadium.
Okay.
And when they asked the manager, hey, was he staying here? Is there stuff? the response that the detectives got was horrible, but it was, you know what, if they're not here the next day, their stuff gets set to the curb for the homeless to have. They just discarded, care. I mean, it was one of those rough places. And let me tell you, that's extremely difficult too. Not having anything of his is so hard. Yeah.
What do you think happened to make the police change their attitude on, we don't want your help, media stay out of it, to now we suspect foul play, help us?
Well, what changed is that Jackson County took it over.
So that is what, okay,
Kansas City never did anything
anything.
except the wellness check. In Jackson County, they're completely different. And after, Sheriff Forte seeing that, and just in him, I'm so thankful to him, in him, he knew that it wasn't right.
Right. And they're the ones that did all that. So that is why the media then is all of a sudden getting alerts, is from the Jackson County Sheriff's Office.
He told me.
Okay.
He said, you know what? I don't care what your son did.
Right.
He's a human being, and we
Right.
will do everything we can. In Kansas City, it was almost like they said, he's a drug addict, he's homeless, he's been in trouble, we don't care.
Right. That's the most ridiculous thing. Because regardless of anything like that, you know your son enough to know that if he's not contacting you, that this is out of, it's not regular behavior.
routine.
Yeah, regular routine.
Right.
And I'm assuming they never apologized to you.
Oh, of course not.
Not,
I bet they did something wrong, so.
they'll never admit they did anything wrong.
Well,
Okay.
And not only that, they'll call me periodically. Like, I think they've called me a handful of times to say, hey, have the detectives found anything out? Yeah. And that's like insult to injury. And I have a recording, I have a voicemail saved on my phone where this man was so I don't even know what word to say. I mean, he like broke my heart because he just nonchalant says, hey, just calling to see if you've talked to Skylar lately. Right.
How long ago was that?
I have to look on my phone, but probably
That's
within the
true.
past 4 or 5 months, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, wait, a police officer said that?
The missing persons detective that I talked to day one. I have it. I saved it intentionally on my phone because that's not okay.
Have you talked to him? That is sick.
And on my voicemail.
That's sick.
I agree. And when I told him, I said, you know what? If you want to know information, here's the detective's number. You can call him. But I was informed you're no longer working this case. They are. And his response to me was, we took the case, so we'll always be working on that. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, they're horrible. It has been a horrific experience working with them because not only did they not do anything, they don't care. And that's obvious. The way that they talk to me, it's very apparent. They don't care. They don't care about my son. They don't care about me. And I've had a completely different experience with Jackson County Sheriff's Department. They've been wonderful.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question.
I'm sorry.
On his cell phone, did they ever?
He didn't have a cell phone.
Oh, he did? Oh,
Well, he had a physical cell phone, but no service. So he could only message me through Facebook Messenger, like if he was somewhere that had Wi-Fi. And I don't know, who knows if Chris is the real name or if
Real name.
really, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to put it out there.
So I'm assuming, and I don't know if you can tell us this either, of Skylar's friends, does anybody know anyone named Chris? I mean, I'm assuming they would have looked into that.
Yeah, there's a couple of Chris's that I was aware of and that I gave the detectives their names.
The information. Okay.
they have rewards for missing or is it just unsolved murders?
I don't know. Is there a reward out for it? Any information?
Does Kansas City-
There's not. I offered that but I was kind of shut down. It was December of last year. I actually went to Kansas City and met with the detectives in person, and they told me there is some sort of fund organization or whatever, and that they were working on that does offer a reward.
Okay.
I mean, I told him that we would come up with our own amount, but that was kind of put on hold for whatever reason. I don't know.
Okay. No,
I have
no,
to trust
don't.
that they know what they're doing, you know.
We've been hearing a lot about this, not just, we haven't reached Kansas City yet, and more about Grandview.
Grandview's terrible, yeah. But it's just amazing. It's amazing the problems that family members have.
I can't even, most days I can't even think straight, so I don't know. I mean, talking about it is incredibly hard, so my mind just kind of.
And I'm sorry.
Oh, don't apologize. It needs to be done. It's hard, but you know, I would do anything for my son. So if this means that it gets it out there more, then it gets it out there more. I'll be fine.
So we appreciate you talking to us.
Yeah, I'm glad you found my sister.
I am too. I really am. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and thanks for getting the word out.
So Skylar called his mom and told her Happy Mother's Day. And then 2 days later, it was her birthday, and she didn't hear from him, which she thought was, which would not have been typical.
Right.
But she thought maybe he was just upset because she was moving to Florida.
Right.
Later that day, he had messaged her. He had Facebook messaged her, and he had said that his best friend was leaving. So he was upset that she was going.
Mm-hmm. So then she thought, I'm sorry, that he was kind of just pouting.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is very understandable. I would think that, he was
Mhm.
very upset.
Right. That's exactly what she thought. And then obviously COVID hit, and Kansas City's in a lockdown. So not being able to get a hold of him because his phone only works with Facebook Messenger, it's extremely possible that, I would think that he's just not somewhere that they can communicate. And then she moves away. I think it's remarkable that the mother of Skylar's child reaches out to Sandra because she hadn't seen him or heard from him for a while. And Sandra, of course, is like, well, I haven't either. Then reaches out to his friends. And then that's when she finds out that there's this story going around on the street that Skylar was with some guy named Chris, and they went to Blue Springs, and Skylar was killed in a drug deal robbery gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But what gets me is that this obviously would have happened in May.
Right.
Now we're talking August.
Right.
And somebody knew about this.
Right. And I remember she said something like the friends where he was living with at the time, that he hasn't been there in a while, hasn't lived there in a while. But she said that wasn't true. So, no one said anything to anyone.
I would think you hear that someone's died and you don't call the police, you don't call Skylar's mom, you don't go and see, well, maybe he, where he's at, maybe he's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
They sat on this until Skylar's child's mom reaches out, which they were reluctant to even tell her that, but there should be no reluctance, Then when Skylar's mom, she ends up calling the police, that's when they did do the welfare check.
And that's when, they found out about the information that, he hasn't been here.
Yeah, that he doesn't live here anymore. Yes.
Yeah.
But so when the detectives went and did the welfare check, they go to where Skylar's last known address was, and they're told he doesn't live here anymore. And then that was it. They didn't, they're detectives. They're supposed to search for him. They go one place, they're told he's not there anymore, and then they're done.
And then found out that place just throws away your belongings after how long? A day?
Yeah, after the end of the week, if you don't pay your, if you're not, I'm not sure how often you pay the rent at the place he was staying, but they threw it out.
So they
Yeah.
threw all this stuff away. So if there was anything there, it's probably gone through and stolen. And
All that stuff's
traded.
gone.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's remarkable that a reporter found out about the news and then wrote a story about it because the quote, wait, I have to find it. So KCPD issues a statement on why they haven't released any information on Skylar, and it is, quote, "We don't suspect foul play," even though that is what the word on the street is. "We don't suspect foul play and don't need the media's assistance. But should that change, we would advise all media outlets." Kansas City has over 500 missing persons cases. No, they need help. They need to get the word out there. And it's like they just drop the ball constantly. They're fumbling with all of this stuff. But thankfully, and Sandra is extremely happy that Sheriff Forte with the Jackson County Sheriff read the article and then contacts her and says, "Hey, we'll take the case." And because of that, that's how the media then found out, okay, Skylar is with someone named Chris. You know, foul play is possible with the story, and it's just a good thing. I think it's, but Sandra told us that the detectives with the Kansas City Police Department, the detective called her up just a couple months ago and leaves a message. And the message said, "Have you talked to your son lately?" That's just rude. That is so rude.
And she still has that message.
Yeah, she still has that message.
So, I mean, it's again where every time it seems like we've been getting a hold of a case, it's always a drop the ball situation, which is a shame.
Always.
Not, going further into the investigation. It's always, again, the parents and the loved ones having to advocate for their loved ones.
It's the families that have to do everything. What I got out of talking with Sandra is that Skylar would have done anything for his friends. And she says that's kind of like somewhat how he would get into trouble, but Skylar would do anything for his friends. But yet they need to step up and help right now. Somebody knows who Skylar was with, assuming that Chris is his real name. And they need to do something about it so that Skylar can be found. So let's talk about the whodunits.
It's a very difficult one. There's not much to go on. I know it's an open case, so obviously they do have information that they can't share and we can't share.
We can't share, yes.
So as far as we know, it's a guy named Chris. And they do know several people named Chris, and they do have all the...
The information was given to them about the people named Chris.
Right.
And from what we know, Skylar has not had any contact with anybody past May 12th. But people know where he went and who he was with, and it's best that they come forward while they can and get this resolved.
Right. And obviously, if you are a Chris that knows Skylar and you didn't do it, just come on forward and give information so we can mark your name off the list.
Chris, that's you. Tell them that wasn't you.
Yeah.
So for my whodunits, I would say yes, somebody named Chris or went by the name Chris. But I also think that there are obviously friends of Skylar's that know more because they were reluctant to come talk.
Friends, right?
So-called friends. And again, Skylar would have done anything for them. He was a very loving person. And obviously that got taken advantage of. And that's...
I hope that bothers somebody. That has to bother. Someone has to have
a conscience, right? I would hope so.
Not.
Okay. We're in a time crunch, so I'm going to keep talking even though Haley's getting ready to sit down. I'm just kidding. Okay. Thank you for joining us. If you have a case that you would like for us to do, please send us an email at whodunitsisters@gmail.com, or you can message us on our Facebook page or on our YouTube page. If you have a tip for this case, you can contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, or you can let us know and we would send it on. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to our channel. Bye.
Thank you.
All my love is broken. The cigarette smoke is not enough. All my hope in clothes inside of my heart. Come forth in motion. Yes, I'll sing it out loud. Yes, I'll